All right, stop the music. Stop the music right now. It's this week's Wrestling Perspective. We have a jam-packed show. Petey Williams, what's going on?
How's she going, eh?
You know what? She's going good. Due to a change in my schedule, we're now recording on Sunday nights, which is a little bit more easier for us to be fan-friendly. We have a ton of questions to get to. We have some voicemails. We may, if anybody calls during this live pod, well, the live to you and I as we do it right now, recorded to everybody listen. If anybody kind of calls during it, I think normally we let it go to voicemail and then we either play it the following week or we let just go to voicemail. But tonight, maybe we go ahead and just answer the calls.
Yeah, I mean, if the phone rings, answer it, right? I mean, how many times do you call me and it rings once and goes right to voicemail? You're like, oh, Petey's doing that to me right now. Don't you hate that?
Big timing me. A lot.
Hey, I'm just busy, man. I'm just busy, you know.
Well, let's start with a bunch of questions. I belong to a Impact message, I guess, fan group here on Facebook. It's called the Impact Fan Nation, and they're always asking some interesting questions. So I wanted to go over there and grab a few of the questions and ask them. A lot of people are like, "Hey, if you get a chance, can you ask Petey this or ask Petey that?" So I'm going to go through some of the messages that were directed towards you and I, and ask them. We're going to go over Twitter. Okay. We're going to go over Twitter and do the same, but we have a lot of stuff. This comes from Vinny Walker. I'm right out the bat. Plus, we have topics we'll discuss in and out. Vinny says, in my circle of friends, TNA is considered the lowest of the promotions and the butt of any wrestling-related joke. Try as I might, nobody listens to me when I say Impact's current product is far superior to WWE. TNA crap, quote-unquote, they'll jeer. Nobody watches it anymore. The other night, Crown Jewel has given us a unique gift. Genuine 100% example of how WWE is dead. I can't complain with 2018 Impact Wrestling. Worst wrestling show ever was the Jewel. I literally never want to hear of an E fan laugh at Impact ever again after the Crown Jewel. So let's start with the Crown Jewel, I guess. Boy, for me, it was horrible. We are not going to go through match by match, but the Crown Jewel seems to be one of those things where, is it a measuring stick of how far WWE has fallen and how much indie wrestling has risen? Or is this like, hey, they went over, it was a controversial show, you take it as it is, and you move forward?
I mean, I don't know if they were like, hey, this is a good starter show for, being here or whatever the case may be. Or maybe they're over there once before. I don't remember. So
Dubai,
they're like,
right?
It's a good,
Dubai?
easy crowd. What's that?
Was it Dubai they were at or something?
They were. I thought they were like in Saudi Arabia or something like that, but just outside of Saudi Arabia.
Maybe. Anyways, keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like they were thinking like, okay, this is a good starter show, and if I wrestle in a place like that where you don't know, I'm just thinking from a wrestler's point of view. I don't know what the health care is and stuff, and am I going to take a risk and be like, hey, this guy's got to get rushed to the hospital? It's like, what? Like I don't know how like what their hospitals are and stuff like that, but like, okay, maybe the wrestlers are going to take it easy. Maybe they don't want to get hurt or whatever the case may be. Or maybe they're like, hey, like this is going to be an easy crowd. There's like 70,000 people and, let's enjoy, just almost like a house show kind of, right? Like, I mean, you and I have been to house shows, you know how it's a little bit different than a pay-per-view and TV and all that kind of stuff. And I think they knew going in, they're like, you know what, we're giving them a new world champion at the end. We're giving them The Undertaker. We're giving them the return of Shawn Michaels. We're giving them all this stuff. And that's sufficient. So let's just leave it at that.
This question comes from Carlos. Petey, Hulk Hogan came back at the Crown Jewel. Me, as a minority, I was greatly offended, and I still won't forget what he said. You, as a part of Impact Management, would you be against or be disappointed if Impact were to ever had brought back Hulk Hogan after that incident?
That's a tough question because,
You got to be a little
you
political
know,
correct here too.
yeah, no, and I understand that because, in obviously what he did, inexcusable, not sticking up for him in any sort of way. There's no room in this world for racism of any sorts. Okay. I'm just going to put that as my opening line. Um, and I think we discussed this before, like Hulk Hogan is such a, like a name, or just did so much for this wrestling industry that it's hard to like kind of forget Hulk Hogan. I know we forget Chris Benoit because Benoit, like killed his family. So I mean, yeah, we should forget that. That's murder. I mean, that's even more inexcusable. But I mean, look at the era Hulk Hogan grew up in and where he grew up. Like he was born in the 50s, so he probably grew up in the late 50s, early 60s. And he was in the South. I know, like probably going to school. Like he was born in Georgia, moved to Florida like shortly after he was born. I know down there was still like segregation going on when he was going to like elementary school, probably. So it's you know growing up in that like era, like it's not excusing him for what he does, but I just know like you and I have grandparents and stuff that grew up like in that segregation type world, and like that's what they know. And when we talk to like people of that age nowadays, you look at them and be like, hey, grandma, grandpa, we don't say that stuff anymore. Like we don't say that, and they look at you like, what? That's what I've said since I was a kid. Like they don't mean it in a racist way or anything like that. It's like that's how they were brought up, and that's what they know. And it's kind of like it's a different day and age where like it's inexcusable, like, but we don't like that's not how times are now. Like we have moved on and we have evolved as a world, and things are different. So just remember where Hulk Hogan came from. And then still as TNA management, I mean, that's a tough one because you can't turn a blind eye to that type of racism. You just can't, regardless of your background or anything like that. Inexcusable. So, it's a good thing that I'm not the one making those decisions when it comes to hiring and firing.
I'll say this. I was raised in a racist household. My mother, bless her heart, she's gone now, was extremely racist. I remember bringing home my first rap tape. And look, I'm 40 years old, and I'm going to drop it on you, and you're going to giggle and laugh, and I get it. But back in the day, I was the biggest Fat Boys fan. And
Oh yeah, I remember the Fat Boys. Yeah.
and young kids, if you had never heard of the Fat Boys, it's an 80s rap group who beatboxed and basically rapped about food. It was the greatest thing ever. I grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta at that age. And I remember my mom coming in, hearing it, pulling it out, and, you're not going to listen to this blank stuff anymore, breaking the tape, crushing my heart. And that was one of those defining moments in my life where I said, at that age, everybody was equal in my book. I even still today. So to see someone like Hulk Hogan, whether he was caught on tape or not, and being caught on tape makes it even worse because that means, to me, in my opinion, that was his true feelings. I would never want to see him on a show that I support like Impact. So as a fan, I don't want to see him on TV. Plus, as a wrestling fan, I think the business in the industry has passed him by. I watched that crown jewel, and he just looks two steps behind everything. His promo was not as crisp as it used to be. I'd be happy if I never saw Hulk Hogan on TV again.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to kind of say, all right, Hogan, I think he's like 65. You're 65. We know that you've meant like the world to the wrestling business, but let's move on into the direction that we want to go in. Like I know, like myself, I did not grow up in growing up in Canada. I didn't grow up in a racist household or anything. I didn't even hear, and maybe this is early, maybe this is late, but I never heard like my first like racist joke until I was 10 years old, and it wasn't by my parents. It was by a 13-year-old, and he tells me a joke, and I didn't get it. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, don't you get it? And he's trying to explain stereotypes to me pretty much. And that's the first time I ever heard about stereotypes growing up. And I was like, wait, what? I don't understand. And then I go and tell my dad, and my dad's like, no, don't listen to him, like that kind of thing. So it all depends on your upbringing. Like, I mean, it's really tough talking about this stuff and listening to this stuff and just what's going on in this world today. So with Hogan being back, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what, it's not interesting. It is interesting to see what everybody on Twitter is saying. Like, yay. Some people are like, yay, Hulk Hogan's back. A lot of people are like saying, oh, this is ridiculous. He shouldn't be back. All that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if people still support WWE after this.
Samuel wants to know the Eli Drake suing Impact angle. Does that in any way poke fun at Jeff Jarrett's situation?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
I could see
it might be.
I could see where people could misconstrue this as something like that. And I'll be honest, I think A, is poor timing. B, it's a bad angle for Eli Drake. Why would you put such a charismatic character, a former world champion, in a company that is, I don't want to use the word hurting for star power, but Eli Drake is a bona fide star in that company, and now you have him doing ticky-tack stuff like, should we sue Impact Wrestling?
Well, it's part of the storyline because obviously the whole thing was, James Ellsworth came out at Bound for Glory. He beat James Ellsworth, and then we have to kind of send home the crowd happy, and then have Abyss come out there and put him through a table and all that kind of stuff. And then you get, obviously, it's Abyss. Joseph Park is Abyss, but they're Eli kind of playing along with it, be like, yeah, I'm going to sue management, and they kind of have this whole charade going on. And then he beats up Joseph Park, and because he knows it's Abyss and all that kind of stuff, which is, I mean, it's an okay angle. It's kind of like a filler angle for Eli, and I agree with you. Eli deserves.
He deserves better. I mean, come on, say it. He deserves better.
He does deserve better, but, like I say to everybody, you can't be on the top forever, right? I mean, you can't just be world champion all the time and defending it, for a year straight. You have to kind of, build other characters and all that kind of stuff. And when it's time for Eli to step back in, he'll step back in because we know, he can carry a storyline.
Petey, you finally got my blood boiling. Holy cow. When was the last time Eli even sniffed being close to being on top?
Well, he was tag team champions with Steiner shortly after he lost.
Come on,
his titles.
Come on, that was something no.
And then he beat Scott Steiner, something I have never done as many times as I've wrestled him. He beat him on the first try, so I mean that's pretty good.
He's 50-something years old. Come on.
Yeah, it's still Scott Steiner. I mean, it's still the name value if he beat Scott Steiner. Anyways, and then he went on to the open challenge type thing, and he's been doing that open challenge. And I really don't know where they're going with that from here. I guess I'll see once we're in Vegas.
Oh, Petey, my blood is boiling. Oh my gosh! And how long ago was the tag team champions thing?
That was probably in, I think he won them March, April. I think he won them like maybe in April, maybe. lost him it would have filmed in May, so like 3 or 4 months ago. And then over the summer, he was doing the Eli Drake challenge from Slammiversary till Bound for Glory.
No, because
and now he's
hang on, 3 or 4 months ago you said, because 3 or 4 months ago we would have been early summer, and I would have been going to the shows and hanging out with you. And Eli at that point was
he did the thing with Joe Hendry as well. He did the storyline with Joe Hendry, getting him involved.
On top. That doesn't count as being on top. Come on.
Yeah, like I said, you can't always be on top. Oh. You can't. I mean, it's you have to let other people get built and stuff. You have to step aside, build other people up, like when he was building up Hendry and stuff like that, and then it'll circle back around. And you got to remember, Eli, his contract was up. We talked about this before, and then he re-signed. So again, when you know somebody's contract's up, you're like, okay, is he coming or going? You don't know. And then, okay, now let's go into this storyline, because it's very uneasy. Like if you're locked into a 3-year contract, you're like, okay, now we know which direction we go. We got time. When you don't know contract status, it's hard to book in advance.
We're going to take this Eli Drake conversation into another podcast, I'm sure, because we're going to have to agree to disagree. Petey, wow. Just as how much I'm a big fan of Eli. We've talked about this on the podcast.
I
know, but that is the worst defending of what you guys are doing with Eli than I ever heard. Joe Henry.
What?
Joe Henry, doing something with Joe Henry isn't being close to the top. I love Joe Henry. He's a good guy. Friend of the show. The Open Challenge, you haven't really done anything with the Open Challenge except trot James Ellsworth out. And granted, he's my other podcast partner, but come on, James Ellsworth, are you really?
So, if everybody is on top, who's going to be mid-card? Like I said, some people, when it's their time to go up, they go up. And then other people, when it's their time to play the mid-card, they play the mid-card for a while, and then they go back up. You know, that's how you build characters. If somebody's always on top, somebody's always mid-card, once you're on top, like say it's a heel champion, he goes through all the baby faces, then what? Now you're out of baby faces because you didn't build anybody up from the mid-card. Because everybody was always staying on top. So they have to flip-flop back and forth to build characters. So you got, more people to feud with and more characters to build and build value in them and not just have like the same guys.
No, listen.
You got to do it or else you're going to book yourself into a corner.
I get it, but it was like early 2017 when he was what was it, the Feast or Fire? Is it that how he became tag team champs?
No, that's when he won the briefcase early. It was like 2018, and then he cashed it in like in April, and then they held it on television. Would have probably been till like end of May, early June. Then we had Slammiversary, and that's after Slammiversary. That's when we're starting to do the Open Challenge throughout the summer, July and August.
You know what? I'm gonna go do my homework, and I'm gonna present facts in a case for you. That's what.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do it now. Let's see here. I had another question for you, but I didn't see. I believe it might have been Colby. Was talking about the X Division Championship. Why doesn't Impact introduce a mid-card championship? And would you consider the X Division Championship as a mid-card championship?
So that's two-part. We did have a mid-card championship. I think we had two at one point.
You did.
We had the Grand Championship. That's like the mid-card championship. We also had like
King of the
Legends
Hill
Championship at one point.
Yeah,
King of the Mountain Championship. Yeah. So we've had mid-card championships.
But and I'm going to take a stab at this, is that the roster is not deep enough to sustain another singles championship.
Well, not necessarily. We just wanted to focus on the main championships we have, like the knockouts, the world title, the X Division, and the tags. Like that's pretty much it. I know that I don't even know who made the Grand Championship, but the Grand Champion, it's like it was a good theory at the beginning of it because it was something unique. It was almost like the old English style, like rounds of wrestling, like the World of Sport.
Yeah, with
so it was like 3 5-minute rounds or something like that, or 3 so many minute rounds, and that takes a lot of like television time, and there's downtime between rounds and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of times you might lose the momentum in a match and all that. So, just man, and then the scoring it's a great idea, but it's like it ran its course, and we had to get rid of that title.
the title looked phenomenal. I would love to see you bring back that style title, but under a different kind of role. I think with the way that you guys are doing indie promotions and doing live Twitch shows, you could almost have a version of the television title, but like the Twitch, viewing title or something like that.
Oh, that's a good idea. The Twitch champion or something, and that's a great idea. The X Division title, I do feel like right now, it's the mid-card title because, back when...
It's your version of the Intercontinental Championship.
It used to be like, hey, everybody was waiting to see that X Division Championship match, right? That's what it used to be back in the early Impact TNA days. Now, ever since Austin Aries was the first one to do the option C thing where it cashed in for the heavyweight title, when you do that...
Wait, are we allowed to say that on the show?
So when you do that, you're allowed to, you just told them, hey, this is now a mid-card title because I cashed it in for a bigger prize. So that's when it kind of okay, this is a mid-card title, coming out and saying it. Even though it might have been perceived as that before, now you just said it because it was that option C. And then, Saban cashed in option C, then I think Aries cashed in again, and then I think maybe that was the last cash in. So, which is, I think it's a great idea, the option C cash in.
Do you like it the way it is, where you have to come out and say something, or would you rather see it become, you can cash it in at any moment? Dun, dun, dun.
I like to, and even with our Feast or Fired stuff, we're not allowed to anymore. Just go out there, run in, and say, "Hey, I'm cashing it in." Right now, you have to actually say, "I'm cashing it in," and I don't know the rules. I don't remember. But I remember the first time I cashed in my Feast or Fired, I ran out there and then said I'm cashing it in, kind of like a Money in the Bank. And then that might have been the end of it, or maybe the next year when they did it, they made it the end of it and said, now we have to, you have to give notice or whatever the case may be. So that's why you hear the notice now. In option C, I'm okay with that because what happens? Because usually when you cash it in, that means the X Division title is vacant. So now you don't have a champion, right? So if you announce hey, I'm cashing this in next month, it's okay, we're going to put together a tournament for the new X Division champion, or however they're going to decide who the new X Division champion is. If they just come in and cash it, it's okay, now who's the X Division champion, right?
Do you think they should change?
I mean,
do you feel like they should change the X Division Championship, the name of it now? Because it feels like back in the day, during the TNA days, it was more high flyers. And now it feels like it's more open up to anybody on the roster.
And it was meant to be, and when we first came up with it, it's hey, it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits. And you had Pierre Carl Ouellet, challenge, and he's definitely not in the cruiserweight weight limit and stuff, and same with Samoa Joe and Brian Cage right now. So we meant to be hey, it's just the X Division, this style of wrestling, just kind of the fast pace and go type of wrestling. I don't think they should switch the name because you know what, that's the only belt in our company's history where I don't think we've changed the name or anything. It's always been the X Division Championship. And the Knockouts, I believe, it's always been the Knockouts Championship, but the world titles went through, it was the Global Championship and then the Heavyweight title, and now it's the World Impact Championship. So I like it because that's the one thing Impact's known for is the X Division, and they'll never be able to take that away. So no, they should not change the name of that.
I'd still like that idea of like a television title, but in the form of just Twitch. Like,
Yeah, they did have a TV title, I believe, at one point as well. I want to say they had a TV title for a little bit, and then I think that changed into the Legends title, I believe. I don't even know my own history, but I believe they did have a TV title.
go back to it and only defend it on Twitch. That would be my suggestion.
The Twitch title.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Are you going to pitch it? No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, I'll pitch it.
Jonathan says, I think I hate Hernandez because beyond being a sloppy wrestler that will get people injured, he looks like a lazy creative wrestler that you would have made on Heroes Come to Pain on PS2. I'd never played the game, so that reference is kind of lost to me. I don't think I view Hernandez as a lazy wrestler. I don't know if I view him as sloppy or not, but I don't view him as lazy.
No, Hernandez, and I've worked with Hernandez before. I mean, I feel like he's great. I always looked at him as that guy, as he's the boss in a film, that like the main henchman that you have to like get through him before you get to the little weaselly boss kind of deal, like, and then the Jean-Claude Van Damme or whoever, the Chuck Norris, whoever the action star is, tries to beat him up, and like he roundhouse kicks him in the face, and he kind of just doesn't even sell it, and like, you know, pushes the guy, and he throws. Like, that's how I look at Hernandez. He's like that type of villainous character. That's how I looked at him. So, and I liked his teaming when he back in the former LAX with Homicide, because Homicide was the smaller guy and stuff, and I thought it was a good dynamic. And you know, he got a good singles push for a while and everything. But no, I mean, I like Hernandez, and you know, it's part of his character. Like when he walks around, he's like, you could see he's got like that thug swag to him. It's like that, you know, his walk and stuff, and that's part of his character and everything. So I think he plays his character perfect.
Jackson wants to know, the final hour, Brian Cage Goes to Ohio, is that going to be live, or has that already been pre-taped?
That's a good question. I know we left a spot for it on the show. That wasn't taped at the New York tapings. I know we left a spot because they were going to film it off location, like we do with a lot of the other stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be live. I don't know if it's already been taped or it's going to be taped soon, but it'll be taped before it airs on Thursday, just like the rest of our shows. So,
boy,
yeah.
I really hope that they actually go and tape it at OVE's compound. I think that would be cool. I have no idea. You know what? I think, oh man, I know the Chris brothers and stuff, they have their own promotion. And I think this was like their big, yeah, that's right. It was their big like anniversary show or whatever. So I think they hyped it up for that and all that kind of stuff. I know they asked me if I could, you know, do the show, and we had a little chit chat, and it, you know, I respectfully declined, and you know, I wish I would have been there though, but I just couldn't make it. Yeah, that sucks, because I would have totally gone with you. We need.
I know you would have. Yeah.
We need to make just one day as fans, just a road trip down there to watch it. You know, one night where you don't have kids, it's like 2.5 hours away. You know, I know work and stuff, but at one night when everything lines up, I would totally get in a car, drive 2.5 hours just to surprise them and sit in on the show.
Yeah, and I've told them I'd love to come down there and stuff. I think they film on like, or they do their shows like on Wednesdays, I believe.
Even better.
And Wednesdays are so not a good day for me. Just the worst day for me. But you never know. I mean, I know they said they might have like some Friday shows and stuff, which are a lot better. But we'll get it figured out, Dennis. You know we always do.
Does Petey feel like Impact has a good chance to sign Jericho or the Elite? I'll I'll fill you in on that whole thing here in a minute. I know you've been out of the loop over the weekend, as they call themselves now. I would love to see Cody, Kenny, and the Bucks in Impact. I'll say this as far as Jericho, because we've talked to it at links. The second Chris Jericho says he's not coming to Impact, then maybe that's when you should start looking out for him. I don't think he'll come to Impact until, and this is just my opinion, until you guys probably have a better TV deal, or you could use that. He has a lot of connections in Impact. It's a Canadian company. He's Canadian. I could see him using his name to help Impact get a better contract, but I don't think, Impact on Pop, if he were to show up, I almost feel like it would be wasted for the show at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, we have a later slot now that's 10 o'clock. So I know that, like, when back in the day when we were on Fox Sports Net and when we signed with Spike, that was like the debut of the Dudley Boys or Team 3D or whatever you want to call them. So, yeah, I mean, this is all speculation. I don't know anything that's going on with Jericho. So if anybody's listening to this, don't be like, oh, Petey said that Jericho's coming or not coming. But, I could see him if he does come. It might be something like, Impact's moving back to 8 o'clock on Pop, or like, they're going to a different network on a primetime slot, or, they're switching to Monday nights, or whatever the case may be. If you start hearing rumblings about that, then it might be like, oh, okay, maybe Jericho is coming, or maybe, and this is just based on like past experiences of how things were. So, as it stands right now, would Jericho come? I mean, I can tell you he's not going to show up on Thursday because we already filmed that. Spoiler alert.
Wow.
What's happening at Vegas? I know, right? But I'm sure everybody would have already read that on the internet. But as for Vegas, I have no idea what we're going to be doing when we start filming in Vegas on Sunday. I have no idea.
Are you going?
Stay tuned.
Are you going to those tapings?
Yeah, as it stands right now, I will be there.
You know where you won't be?
Here.
For my birthday.
Oh, man.
Boy, you almost sounded genuine there.
You should come to Vegas, I guess.
Oh, you know what? That sounds great. Let me just drop everything and go do that.
That's what I'm doing. So, I mean,
yeah,
why not? Why not make two of us?
It'll be like Toronto, where it would be, hey, does anybody have room for my buddy? Sure, you can sleep in the car.
I didn't make you sleep in the car.
No, but it was getting to that point.
Hey, it looks weird when people are sleeping on the streets in Toronto. In Vegas, that does not look weird. So, I mean, all right, that's the norm. And by the way, for Cody, Omega, and the Bucks, I don't know, and I maybe had heard that all of their contracts are up around the same time in January. Cody had already said on the cruise that he is not going to the WWE. I can see him, maybe going back to Ring of Honor. I think that's 99.9% a given. As I said, I'd update you. Basically, Cody, Kenny, the Bucks, Hangman Page, all basically came out and said they're no longer part of the Bullet Club. They are going to be called the Elite, which his name is owned by the Bucks. Being the Elite, their web series, their shirts, the Golden Elite. So I think a lot of this has to do with money. A lot, because look, they were, as Ellsworth said on our podcast last week, they were making pennies on all of the Bullet Club shirts because New Japan owned the rights to that. Yep.
Cody and Kenny and all those guys, they 100% own the Elite stuff, which makes it more sense to switch over to something you own for financial purposes, especially if you're not going to the big payday in the WWE.
No, I agree. I mean, it makes sense and that's why WWE can't use the Bullet Club reference, even though they have like AJ and, and pretty much like Finn and everybody else. So they can't use that. And New Japan does own it, and they're not going to give it up, obviously. No. So why not just start a new group with a different name, pretty much with the same guys, and reap the benefits of the profit? Absolutely. What I think, if I was in like Cody and the Young Bucks and all those other guys, Hangman, that are if all their contracts are set to expire at the same time, what I would do is you already have this all in thing. I'm like, why not run with that? Why not just create a new promotion? Because right now there's so much buzz around it. And you could run it your own way and possibly get a TV deal. If not, you could stream, because streaming's really big right now. You don't even really need a TV deal to be successful. And why not do that? And then you're in charge of your own destiny pretty much. It's either a make or break. So I don't see why they would sign with anybody. Why not be the company that people sign with? Because other guys would be like, oh, I'll come work for you, just like they did at All In. So
well, hang on.
I would run with it if I were them.
Let me ask you this. And how many times have you seen, one of the boys start their own company and it doesn't turn out the way people think?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. But again, it wasn't All In. All In was like an independent show that drew 10,000 people. How many of the boys have I seen do that? Zero. So, I mean, they already have something ahead, like, one step ahead, and they're already like, huge names that aren't like signed. So I think they have the star power and the means to do it. And I think people would be very interested, and they have the buzz around it that they could be successful. And you know what? Will it last? I don't know, because you're going to need, financial support, money backers, and all that kind of stuff. And so will it last? I don't know. But right now, why not go for it? Why not?
Here's a 3-part, same question, long, and I don't mean to pick on whoever sent it, but it is a little bit long. This comes from Impact Boy 010. My question is simple for Petey. I love Impact Wrestling, and I will die for Impact. This is my life. When the heck will you guys get away from Pop TV? They are awful. Please move Impact to a channel that believes in them. My second question, how many of the Impact rosters has accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior? I know Mackenzie has, but who else besides her? I love Jesus. Thanks. Can Petey please send a message to Mackenzie Mitchell? And I won't read it because you don't see Mackenzie very often, so you'll probably forget it.
Yeah, I probably will. I'd like to know what the message is, but just because I'm interested, but I think I said hi to her and bye to her at the last set of tapings. So
would you like me to read the message? Let's see here. Thank you for receiving Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior and for keeping his commands. May she keep growing in the love of God and the compassion of Jesus Christ and be devoted to Christ. I care about Mackenzie, and I know she loves Jesus as her Lord and Savior.
That's a great message. I won't remember that verbatim, but I can let her know that she has a fan and thankful that she's likes Jesus, loves Jesus. I don't know how to paraphrase that.
But not to make fun of it, and thank you anyways for writing. I know Rebel is saved because that's all over her Twitter profile. You go to church every Sunday. Outside of that, I'm not sure if I know anybody else.
I'm not sure either. I really don't know. Like, I know I go to church every Sunday. I bring my kids. That's how I raise them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but I mean, what was the first question? When will we get away from Pop?
Yes.
Man, there's a lot of Pop haters out there. I mean, yeah, when I first heard, like, before I came back to Impact, I'm like, what channel are they even on anymore? That's what I said. And they're like, Pop TV. And I was like, what's Pop TV? And the best way somebody explained it to me was, it's the old TV Guide channel. I remember the TV Guide channel because it was like, they had a program airing at the same time as like the programming that you can watch somewhere else pretty much. So, and now today's day and age, you don't need a TV Guide channel pretty much. So, I mean, I don't really know when the Pop TV contract's up. I want to say if somebody did the research, it's probably like the end of this year. early next year. Maybe it's before that. And I mean, I don't know where we're going to end up. I mean, I'm not that type. I'm not that person that makes those decisions or even is privy to those conversations. Wherever, like, I remember back in September, I believe. Was it September or August? They had a little meeting, and they're like, "Oh, our Pop TV contract's up. I wonder what we're going to be doing." And then Ed came out there and made announcements, and that's when they announced the Global Wrestling Network there and the app. And that's when Ed was like, "Yep," when we signed for another year with Pop, and we're all like, "Okay, well, that's where we're at."
Well, I think signing another year with Pop was a necessity because a lot of people like to use revisionist history when they look back at that time, but you guys had not quite made the turn to start winning people back. You guys were in the process. There were a couple false starts within that time. And I don't know if there was even a network out there that would have been interested in the product you were putting out at that time. It's not knocking, where you guys were to where you guys are now. Now, I think you're a bit more attractive. But my question to you is, if you leave Pop and you go straight to streaming, let's just say the only option to watch it is streaming, do you think that is a dagger in the heart of Impact?
See, if you would have asked me that maybe a few years ago, I would have said yes, because, to be any sort of wrestling company, you had to have a TV contract, right? TV. There's only limited, space on television. If you made it on that limited space, then you were made. You're a made company. People believed in you. People will watch. But I mean, you know what, Dennis? It's not that I can't afford it, but I don't even have cable. I do not have cable because there's so much other streaming stuff that I could spend my however much it costs for cable, $70 to $100. I can use that towards stuff I want to watch because I found myself watching cable and I'm like, I have like 300 channels or whatever, and I'd flip through and I'd be like, man, there's nothing on. How is there nothing on with 300 channels? Maybe it's nothing I wanted to watch right then and there. So I love it. All these streaming things, when I'm ready to watch something, I could turn it on. Like, it's almost like, when DVR came out, that's great, Mm-hmm. And it's almost like always having like a DVR of stuff you want to watch that you didn't have to pre-record. And you don't have to worry about all that stuff. So streaming is just so big. So ask me that question now. I don't know if it's actually a dagger in the heart because, I mean, look at like Amazon Prime, for example. Like they have like huge shows and stuff. And same with Netflix. Like you look at Netflix, there's shows on Netflix that don't have a TV contract. They're on Netflix winning like Emmys and stuff. And people know about them. I mean, so streaming has gotten so big that I don't know if it's a dagger in the heart. I really don't. And I could see in the future WWE, well, maybe not because they just signed like $1 billion deal with Fox, but them just switching to streaming and being like, hey, if you want to watch our product, you got to come on the streaming. Things are going to change in the future, and who knows what it's going to be like.
What's the next? And this is from me because Impact has slowly been making baby steps to win fans over. I think they're still a couple years away from a legitimate TV contract. And like you said, I'm not sure if the market is even going to be able to sustain it. You look at Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor right now is some of the hottest stuff ever. And I'm not sure if they could get a major TV deal right now just because of the way the business model is run for them. So you look at Ring of Honor, there's a reason why they're still with Sinclair. I think Sinclair also owns them, but they're kind of tucked away on a small channel, and they're really pushing their Honor Club stuff, and they're not really giving away too much on TV. I don't know the particulars, but there's a reason why Ring of Honor isn't on NBC, ABC, CBS, or whatever it is. So who knows? But the next step for Impact, as I said, you guys are baby stepping it to rebuilding the reputation. You guys are kind of up there now. You're slowly starting to be buddy with Ring of Honor. You saw, and there's rumors now that we could see a champion versus champion match between Jay Lethal and Johnny Impact, or whoever at the time will be the champion. But my question is, what would be next on your list of progressions? Where do you want to go with the company, or where do you want to see the company go from where it is today to 6 months?
Let's see. I mean, I would like
reasonable.
I would like a primetime slot on a network. The problem, like you said before, with like Sinclair probably owns part of, if not all of, Ring of Honor. So they're stuck on that network. Could they go somewhere else? I don't know, because like I said, it's so the toughest part. The toughest part is getting a TV contract. You don't even have to be the best wrestling company or the best wrestling product to get a TV contract. Like, it's just so hard to get that TV contract and that slot on a network. It's so tough. So right now, just being on a network on national television, Pop TV, that's bigger than a lot of people think. That's huge. Even though it's not like, if you look at households that it reaches and stuff, like, Spike at the time, Spike reached like more households and stuff, and rather than Pop TV and all that kind of stuff. So right now, I think that's a great spot for where we're at with the company. I think that's a great spot. I really do, because it's on TV on a network. What wouldn't be good is like, obviously cable broadcast or what, that all the other independent promotions. Hey, we got a TV deal, and it's like cable access or whatever. Like that kind of thing. And I like the fact that Pop agreed to, like, after 10 days after airing on Pop, you could view it on the Global Wrestling Network. USA and WWE do a little bit different. I think it's like almost like a 30-day thing. So by the time like you watch it on their network, they've already like filmed the next pay-per-view pretty much, and you're watching old stuff. So I like that you could kind of keep up without having Pop TV on the Global Wrestling Network. So 6 months, I would not be upset if we were still on Pop. If we didn't have a network, that's worse than being on a network, I believe. But yeah, I mean, being on Pop, I think is totally okay and a lot better than most people think. Primetime slot would obviously be better.
For me, where I would like to see the company is no changes except for a slightly exaggerated roster. I know money's tight, and everybody's penny pinching right now in Impact Wrestling. You need a bigger roster. Whether it's an extra 5 guys here or there, or 10, there needs to be some fresh life interjected, and fresh life that's going to be there on a weekly basis for the next 6 to 7 months. That would be my only hope in the next step of the company, is that you add talent. I mean, people come and go, and then it's such a question mark as to what happened to him. Desmond Xavier is a prime example where, for months we all went back and forth and had the good time about him not following you, and he wins a tournament, and then all of a sudden he's a ghost, gone, poof. Where is he? Nobody knows. I couldn't tell you if he's under contract or not. He's just gone, and I don't like that.
I think he's under contract, or maybe signed a new one. Don't quote me on that, because I don't know if that's true. But obviously he's still on our radar. I mean, we're trying. We understand that. Just like going back with this Eli thing, you can't just have all the same people all in the same spots. It doesn't work. You have to kind of have new people come in, have some other people leave. You got to keep things fresh. So, like, guys like Willie Mack. Willie Mack, I'm a huge fan of, and now he's with Impact Wrestling. I'm trying to think of who else came recently. Jordan Grace, came. So we can't obviously just say, hey, here's like 7 new people that are going to debut. Okay, we had 2 new people debut at the last set of New York tapings. Okay, some fresh faces. In Vegas, maybe we'll have a few more. So we understand that's how it has to go. We definitely that's pro wrestling.
All right. Is there anything else we should talk about before we wrap up the show?
Let's see. Oh, well, I already mentioned Impact Taping's coming up in Vegas.
Yeah.
We're doing it on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They got billboards and stuff up there. I know it's going to be off the strip a little bit, but still at a casino. I'm trying to remember the name of the casino. There's so many down there. I'm like, I can't even keep my casino straight. So, Sanjay asked me, he's like, hey, man, what's your game, Petey? And I said, and Sanjay, God bless him, I said, roulette, Sanjay. And he's like, oh, man, mine too. And I'm like, I know. Like, the first time I played roulette was with you because you liked roulette. I'm like, don't you remember introducing it to me? And then we went to, like, St. Louis, and we went to the casino in St. Louis and played roulette. And then we went to other places. Like, we'd almost do it, like, every house show that we're like around a casino. We'd go and play roulette. We, $100, win or lose, whatever. And I remember, AJ for sure. He really must love Jesus because the one time we took him, man, he was up so much money, like he robbed the house. Like, it was ridiculous, and I lost all my money. So what's that say about me? But I'm excited to go out there, gamble a little bit, and then film our shows and see what comes next. I'm excited to get emailed these formats to see. I like to see in advance, like, what direction are we going in and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm excited for it.
All right.
I'm really excited.
Maybe we'll be able to tape an episode of the wrestling perspective while you're out there.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be fun. I mean, time change though, but I mean, we'll figure it out. We always do, right?
That's right. One of us is semi-retired right now.
Which one though? I don't. Anyways,
we'll leave it up to the fans. Anyways. We have a voicemail. Let's play that here real quick before we get out.
Okay.
And we'll call it a day. Here it is, as it loads up.
Hey, P and Dennis, this is Doug Martin. I have a question for you. I posted this on the hashtag Impact on Pop recently, and my question was, wrestlers in a business, they're not only very good at wrestling the women. They're very good at wrestling the men. I put on there Tessa Blanchard, number 1, Evilise, number 2, and number 3, time 3, except I probably number 3 IS. So responded to that comment I made. So who do you think is the top 3 women in the business that can wrestle not only women but also men? Thanks, and keep up the good work.
I heard the end of it, and I don't know who.
I heard the last question. Yeah. It was broken up for me the first little bit.
Let's just talk about what we heard. Top 3 women in wrestling right now.
Ooh, I got to put Tessa Blanchard up there as in the top 3. Let me see if I get my top 3 really quick. You remember, Dennis, I do have a kind of newly earned respect for women's wrestling, but that's not my cup of tea. I've mentioned that before. Nothing disrespectful towards women. It's just that, that's just not my cup of tea. Even though I work with women in wrestling, and I do appreciate everything they do. So I might not be like tip top on all the great women wrestlers out there, but I would definitely say Tessa for sure. Probably it's a good one, like Asuka. Like, I mean, she's really good too, like really good. And then it might be a toss up between like. Now, are we just talking wrestlers or characters and who's over right now? Like, maybe a toss up between Charlotte and Becky, maybe.
A total package. How about that? Does that make it easier or harder? Because I think for me right now, it would be Tessa. Was it Jordan Grace?
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of hers. And then I would either put... I would go 4 then. Because I would put Tessa, Grace... In no order, by the way. Ronda Rousey. I don't care what anybody says about her. She is killing it. From characters to looking good. I will argue with anybody any day. Because right now she is on top of her game. And then... Becky Lynch, since turning heel, nobody's been hotter. I would put her at number 4 overall. I'm sure there's some indie darlings out there that I'm missing that deserves to be maybe higher than 1 or 2 of those people, but for me, that's my 4.
Yeah, I mean that's a good 4. Yeah, I would probably put. I think Tessa's on the top of the industry right now. I mean, and I forgot about Ronda. Ronda's doing really well. You know, for being going from UFC to WWE is probably the best transition any UFC person has made. Becky's so hot right now. I mean, those are all really good, Dennis. I mean, I don't disagree with you on any of those. I do like Asuka just because I like in her NXT stuff and everything. Like she can have an awesome match with anybody. She can make the worst female wrestler look great in the ring. Just that's how good she is. So when I look at a wrestler, and like how good they are, Asuka's like right up there. That's why I chose her. She might not be like super over right now or being pushed or anything like that, but man, she can go in the ring and her stuff looks really good.
All right, and to wrap this up, we got to get out of here, but can I complain for 1 second?
Yeah, please do. Let me hang up the phone first.
That's cute. Kidding. Look at you making jokes.
No, please. Let me hear. Unless it's about Eli Drake, then I don't want to hear it.
No, it's not. The other night I'm watching Raw, and they do a very heartwarming, touching tribute to Roman Reigns, who went back to battle leukemia for a second time. But it was, some of the kids that they've recently showed in some of the promos beforehand that were fighting cancer, saying, "Hey, we're with you, Roman." And very heartwarming and touching, but it got me wondering, and it got me a little bit nervous that there's going to be a certain point where the WWE, and they can't help themselves, are going to exploit this for something. And this is something I do not want to see the WWE exploit in any way. In my mind, I thought it was a touching package, but if you were to step away and look at it maybe from a business or a different angle, you may go, "Whew, that's borderline, exploitation right there." And I hope not. And I hope I'm wrong on this, but I think that they're going to get awfully close, if not get into they're going to exploit it, and it's going to upset me.
Jeez. Man, that is a fine line, Dennis. Man, that's good.
Now some people are going to say to me, "Hey, you're taking out of context something nice that they're doing for the kids to say to Roman Reigns."
Yeah.
It may be so, but somebody had the idea of, "Hey, let's send a camera crew out there and film these children saying something. That way we can put a package together and show it on our TV." Now, the kids didn't call the WWE and say, "We want to do this for them." There has to have been an executive somewhere that said, "Hey, it would play well on TV right now?" And that's the way I look at how that happened.
Yeah, but also, so I definitely see it from that point of view. Now I'm trying to look at it from other angles because that's what I usually do. So Roman Reigns just made this, announcement. And then that was just last week, right? Correct? Mm-hmm. Last Monday?
Yep.
Or was that 2 Monday? Okay, yeah.
2 Mondays ago.
Just 2 Mondays ago, because this Monday, tomorrow will be 2 Mondays. So they can't just... Now think about it from an outside perspective. Roman Reigns says, "Hey, I got to relinquish my title. I'm battling leukemia. I'll be back better than ever. Keep me in your prayers." So that's what they do. Then if WWE doesn't mention Roman Reigns again or do something, it looks cold on WWE's part. It's like, "Oh, look it. He can't wrestle, so he's of no value to that." Like that they would just do that to a long-term employee or long-time employee of theirs, just kind of throw him to the wayside because he can't perform anymore. So I think they still have to say, "Hey, Roman Reigns is still in our prayers, still in our heart. We're still, he's a big part of the WWE family." They still need to do that rather than say, okay, we're just not going to mention him anymore. So that's the fine line. I think, and I do think they realize that. I don't believe they want to exploit it, or at least I hope they don't want to exploit it. But at the same time, they're like, we have to say something. We can't just say nothing. Like that's like cold and callous and like inhumane to do that. So what do you do? Like, what do you put out there? Like, you got to do something, and there's probably going to be more packages to come, I would say.
All right.
Like, I mean, you hear what I'm saying, Dennis? Like,
I do.
You can't just say nothing and be like, well, okay, so sorry for, like, it would mean that WWE saying like, all right, sorry, Roman, but we got to move on. Like, that's kind of, that's cold if they did that.
Do you want to see him pop up on TV? Because I kind of don't. I want to
So while he's, and that's tough. And I don't think he would want to. Like, if you're I don't know what the process is. I don't know if he's going through chemo. I don't know what stage he's at. I have no idea. But you don't want to do that on television, I wouldn't think. Especially, you got to remember, wrestling is, we'll call it fiction, for lack of a better word. It's fiction. So this is something real in real life that he's battling. And to bring it into this world, I mean, yeah, so much, but I wouldn't have him show up. Like, that's just, I wouldn't do that. I think that's a bit too far.
All right. Well, what do you have to promote so we can get out of here and enjoy the rest of our week?
Oh, my friendship with Dennis. Follow us together on Twitter. We should get a joint Twitter account, don't you think?
WP_pod.
There you go. So follow the Wrestling Perspective podcast on Twitter.
Are you talking like a Petey and Dennis together?
And we have like all the pictures of us doing stuff together, and then we tweet out mutual tweets. That'd be something, though.
Like me rubbing you down?
Yeah. No, I mean, just, stay tuned to keep your ear open for the Impact tapings coming up in Vegas this week. Join us if you're down there. If you're down there, let me know that you listen to the show, and I'll stop by and chit chat with you.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all I got, Dennis. And follow me on Twitter at @PeteyWilliams.
Follow me at Dennis77Farrell. Listen, if this is your first time listening, we try to bring you a whole different kind of wrestling podcast. We want you to be involved. We have a call-in number, 231-930-2053. Call that, leave a voicemail. We'll play it on the show. As you heard earlier, hopefully you're not calling from a tunnel. I certainly hope he wasn't calling to ask us for help to rescue him, because if that was the first part of his call, he's like, listen, I'm trapped right now. Some guys got me in a cage. I can't get out. Oh, by the way, I want to know, who are your top 3 female wrestlers? We totally missed that first part. So
I need to know this before I die.
Yeah,
I need to know this before I die. Who are your top 3 female wrestlers?
The first part's like, please send help. You're my only hope. By the way, top 3 wrestlers, guys. Got to know this real quick. Big time listener. It's the only show they let me listen to here in the cage. So hopefully that's not you, but 231-930-2035. Call anytime, day or night. Leave a voicemail. WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. You can go there. Links to wherever the podcast is played. You can click it, subscribe at whatever format, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, a ton of places. That's where we are. Please subscribe. It helps us. And you get the podcast right away when it drops. There are 2 podcasts on this feed, by the way. It's us, me and Petey, the original. And then there's the Duckcast with James Ellsworth. But anyways, so James.
Hey, James, how you doing?
Yeah. James and I, we do more WWE talk, and Petey and I do more Impact talk. And that's what sets the 2 shows apart, is you kind of get a different feel for, it's 2 different podcasts hosted by me and then these 2 guys, and it's a whole, each show is 2 different feels, and we cover a lot of stuff in 2 weeks, 2 shows per week.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you joining us to listen to both.
There you go. So thank you guys so much. This is, by the way, probably for the better lack. If you're listening, Sunday night is when we record this. This is kind of going to be our new record time, right? Because my schedule's changed a little bit, so is yours. We used to do one every other week, kind of a midweek recording, but I think for at least maybe I'll change when you're in Vegas. But for the better of going forward, Sunday nights is our record night, right?
Yeah, and I mean we'll post it up
Tonight,
whenever we see fit. I mean, yeah, I mean it might not always be Sunday nights. It could be a different night, but you'll definitely know because we'll tweet it out when we're recording, and we'll give you a heads up, and you can call in and do all the fun stuff that we normally do. We'll still get you every week, though.
There you go, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you later. Have a good week, guys.